becoming one.
Good morning, world. It is George Rodriguez, and I am back for another episode of Becoming One. I haven't dropped an episode in almost a month, mostly because one, I had released 3 episodes, and within those 3 episodes, I feel like I covered a lot of what I, was putting together as to what's going on with the world, and it was very informative. So I wanted, those episodes to live for a little bit before I even drop anything else. Reason number two is because I started school again, and this semester required my computer to have something called a virtual machine, which is pretty much, let's say, if you have an Apple computer, you can operate a Windows operating system within your Apple computer, which is performed through a virtual machine, and that requires a lot of storage. And so I had to literally wipe my entire computer, like brand new. I lost so many pictures and videos and, um, you know, just music and just so much from the years 2023 up until 2026. So, and with that included episode 4 and episode 5 that I originally had um recorded also were wiped out. So, we're starting fresh. Uh if you ever have worked on a project before, and let's say it completely gets wiped out, you understand that it takes a lot of courage to get back on and, kind of like redo those projects. It's very discouraging actually when you are put in that position. But here we are, and I found the courage to continue this podcast. And I'm actually really happy. And I don't know if you can tell by my tone of voice, but I do feel a little bit sad. Matter of fact, you guys would find it a little bit funny how I'm recording this episode right now. One, I'm actually really comfortable not having a camera in my face. Two, I realize I don't need to have a camera in my face because a lot of the podcasts that I listen to, especially on Apple Podcast, are I don't think I've ever even seen a video of the people that I listen to and their podcast episodes. I'm pretty sure I'm just familiar with their voices and pretty much what I listen to on Apple Podcast. So I was like, I don't need a video. It would be nice. Maybe potentially down the road, I'll pick up back again on maybe having my own little studio set up and having a more professionally uh, established podcast environment when it comes to recording episodes. But I felt like, for the time being, this is comfortable enough, especially for me and just my state of mind. I'm not going to say I'm depressed because there is a lot of amazing things that are happening at the moment within what I'm trying to establish in the field of human unity. Um and it's slowly getting picked up on, and it's slowly gathering. So, I'm not depressed at all when it comes to that matter, but I do feel I don't know, I just been feeling really, really, really disappointed with the reality of the life that we are living and the system that we've been kind of like molded into. I remember last episode we did talk a lot about we talked about a lot. We talked about consciousness, psychological warfare, even in the midst of all, we talked about interdimensional existence, which we're gonna cover that topic really quickly on this episode. We also talked about, elites and governmental disruptance with civilians and societies. But I just want to further entail about all of these situation. And by the way, I do apologize for all the background noise. I live in a busy environment, but yeah. First of all, in my last episode, I wanted to kind of like correct myself, and I know on episode 3 I was talking about Gaza. Free Palestine, by the way, free Gaza. And I was talking about how Gaza is a country, and I'm pretty sure Gaza is not a country. Palestine is the country in which Gaza is in. So I wanted to correct myself from that because I was listening to my third episode and I was like, hold on, Gaza is not the country Palestine is. So let me just, go on here and tell you guys that yes, I am aware that Gaza is, where, it's in the country of Palestine. I also want to mention, I feel like there's so much going on with the Jeffrey Epstein files that we kind of forgot. I think just the overall conversation of what's going on with Venezuela. The USA went out of their way to attack Venezuela, and they said it was for the sole purpose of reducing or even getting rid of a regime. But that was hypocritical because we are currently under a regime and as the United States of America. And I just wanted to give you guys a couple updates on that. Maduro, which was the president in which who the USA kind of captured and kidnapped and detained and brought to New York City, he's still not in Venezuela, and he still remains detained in the United States pending trial. And this is resourced by PBS. The government still has many of the same officials and institutions of the previous regime. So nothing has politically really changed in Venezuela. Everything remains the same. Um, what's it called? And it's under intent, but the only difference is that it is under intense U.S. diplomatic and economic influence and pressure to reform. Uh, People's daily lives remain hard. They are still struggling with poverty and food insecurity, and they are very limited in services. Also, I believe the vice president, uh, Rodriguez, ended up taking over the regime. So nothing happened at all. Like nothing changed. It's just a matter of political dominance, in which why the U.S. ended up committing such atrocious criminality. And so that's kind of what the Venezuelans are dealing with right now. And it's just so like, all I could do really right now and say is sigh, because there are so many other things that we could be focusing on right now. And there are so many ways that we can better our environments and society and humanity. But these people that have been satanically satanically involved with such cultive lifestyles, with the abuse of religion, they have, you know, have gotten away with so much. And we all know what's in the Jeffrey Epstein files. And to just even have a general understanding and knowledge that these people are the people that are telling us what's right or wrong, when all they do in every state of their waking state and their waking minds is commit wrongdoings, majorly because they have this conceptualization that because we go through a state of judgment, right, and we're forgiven by God, for example. This is their way of thinking, that when we pass away and our consciousness goes through this state of judgment and we get cleansed by God after we leave this body, they feel like they can do all their wrongdoings now in this human state, because once they leave their bodies and they're dead, they get cleansed, and everything they did in their human lives and all the power that they gained politically, economically, or even socially, or religiously, right, or spiritually, because they did all of that in their human bodies, including their wrongdoings, that once they leave their bodies and they're getting their consciousness cleansed by God, that everything that they did just never mattered. So that's why they do most of these things, and because of the other features that I mentioned, such as financial, economical, political, spiritual gains, which is insane because while the rest of the world is trying to live a pretty moderate life, we have the most successful people literally demonizing the success that a lot of people wish to have. And then it puts us in a predicament of like, okay, so like, what are we doing? What are we working towards? Who are we working for? Like, this is not a state of like, especially in the United States, we are a democracy. We do work for ourselves, if that makes sense. But I don't know. What's it called? The, the Sorry, I started feeling a little bit dizzy. I started feeling a little bit physically like unwell. Maybe I'm just like really stressed, but I have to take a little bit slow because I'm just spitting facts right now and it just sucks because what can we do? And I feel like me even recording this episode is the most that I can do, And it's kind of what been this thought of what can we do, you know, including the fact that all these higher elites and higher people of power with all the money in the world and socially inclined have these ties to Israel and the Jewish elites. It just kind of like puts us in a predicament of always having to fight, you know, Israel and the Jewish people in ties with the United States of America have this human dominance that is affecting the rest of the world, but their egotistical behaviors and egotistical lifestyles and mindsets keep us from uniting because, let's say they have all the money, they have all the power, they have all the, conscious dominance that they feel like the rest of the world is batshit crazy and they will never sit down and reason with you. Especially, I'm talking majorly about, you know, Israel and Jewish elites and people who are in support or even working with that type of category of people. It sucks, but yeah. So that's what's happening in Venezuela. That's what's happening with the state of the world into its relation with Israel and the Jews. It's fucking insane. The political propaganda that was put onto the American people is wild, and everyone is kind of like, you know, cleansing themselves from all that negativity that was put onto us. And it's just a lot of just change. It's just very transformative, drastic changes. Like, we can't even trust anything that's on the shelves of a supermarket. We can't trust any of our, shampoos, conditioners, soaps, toothpaste, anything that was culturally brought upon us. We cannot, like, now we have to reevaluate everything and it, for example, like, even the fact that I had to use my iPhone or my Apple operating systems, or even anything in relations to Windows, which is literally in relations with Bill Gates, who had relations with Jeffrey Epstein. All of these things are just so, like, culturally transformative that we want to stay away from all these horrible people and all these horrible products, and we want to cleanse ourselves, humanitarianly. And it sucks because it's just a lot of stripping away, a lot of getting rid of. And it's like, there's so many people that, for example, me, I'm not financially stable. So it's like we can't just go out and buy the best products, because now that's the thing. They made all the healthy products expensive, and we have to prioritize money here and there. We have to, you know, kind of go out of our way to see what is right for us and, what's not. And it's like it's like becoming, I don't know, it's like being born again, and trying to kind of narrow down our options. And it's like, and the next thing you know, the things that are not healthy for us are the most accessible and the most affordable, right? So then we get to put, we're put in a position of like, okay, where do we prioritize our money? Where do we prioritize? Where do we go to? If that makes sense. A lot of people are used to Costco. A lot of people are used to BJ's. A lot of people are used to going to like these wholesale areas, but they're not used to going to a marketplace. And if anything, there's not a lot of marketplaces that are accessible or available to all of us. A lot of people don't know where to go to. And let's say even the people that are in poverty, or let's say people that are, financially unwell, or, have a lot of food insecurities, and they get brought to food banks, and they get free access to like certain materials. But all of these things are, materials and products that are not good for you either. So it's like we like, for example, I go to, let's say I go to Portugal, and I'm not an economics person, so I don't understand the financial science behind this. But it's wild to me that, let's say if I want a fresh homemade croissant in Portugal, it's 89 cents, right? But then when I'm here in America and I want a fresh, healthy croissant, it's like $5. So it's like, you see where we get put in a position of like it just sucks. It really sucks. And I probably know that I do have an understanding that economically, let's say like 89 cents is probably like $2 for people in Portugal that are not making a lot of money. But let's say like it's still a really drastic difference of a financial affordability. And I don't know if I'm making any sense at all, but pretty much, if you're trying to be healthy and you're trying to take care of your body, trying to be as less chemically involved when it comes to consumption of food or products in America, you need to have your resources. You need to have accessibility to get to those resources and know where to go to, and you need to have the money to afford it, if that makes sense. If not, then you're pushed and forced to only eat and consume the products that are not healthy for you. And it's like, what kind of sick game is this? These elites, they don't have to worry about this. They don't have to worry about the shitty products that they push onto us. If not, there's so many CEOs and so many founders of companies that even say that they wouldn't let their own children consume the product that they push out into society. It's literally psychologically insane. And for these people to be the ones to, point fingers when it comes to criminality, point fingers when it comes to mental health issues, when they're the ones that are literally creating criminality, the ones that are creating mental health issues, they're literally mentally unwell and humanitarianly desensitized to the point where they literally are so dominated by the energy of currency and, Israeli ties and Jewish ties, that they genuinely, humanly, don't have a heart for other human beings that are not within their spectrum, or they're not within their lifestyles, or just essence. And that is insane. That is to me, I don't know if it's a thing of like, even if I don't know. I just can't. I just don't. It's so hard for me to conceptualize to be like that. To be so egotistically involved with currency that you completely desensitize your entire soul to not care how other people are suffering due to your actions and behaviors, and then to defend it. Oh my gosh, the politic girl that was roasting this guy on CNN. The guy that she was, I need names actually. Let me see if I can look it up really quickly. Her name is Leigh McGowan, and she was coming at Scott Jennings in regards to the delayed release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. So let me see if this is the guy. Scott Jennings. Yeah, Scott Jennings, bro. I've seen so many interviews about him, and literally all he does is defend pedophiles and defend people who have done atrocious, dehumanizing acts. And his defense, you guys, is literally that God forgives everybody that's sinning. That's insane. To me, that is absolutely insane. So, literally, what I mentioned earlier in this podcast, they literally do this because they know and they have this ideology in their state of mind that once they go to heaven or once they pass away, that they are going to be forgiven by God. I don't know about you. I don't know about anybody that's really genuinely religious and genuinely believes in God, but I have a really clear understanding that there is, when it comes to religious aspects of Catholicism and Christianity, right? There is a God and there is a Satan. There are people who worship God and there's people who worship Satan. The people who worship God go to heaven and the people who worship Satan go to hell. That's literally how it's always been. It's not, oh, you worship Satan and then when you die, let's go through judgment and then, I'll forgive all your sin and you come to heaven. It was never like that, you guys. I swear to God, because if that's the case, then I'm pretty sure the LGBTQ plus community would have not have had the same amount of freaking heat that pedophiles and all these people get. Does that make sense? Like, and if that were to be the case, I'm pretty sure, and I'm not to say that I'm God to even, make the statement. This is just like a very personal analysis of religion. God, if it were the case of judgment, I'm 100% sure that God would want to forgive a gay person or anyone in the LGBTQ plus community. If it were to be a sin, they would forgive them before a fucking child molester, trafficker, pedophile, rapist, freaking murderer, like and a cannibalist. They like I I have to be 100% sure about that, because if God forgives those type of people, I don't know what kind of God people are worshiping. Like, I really don't know. Like, the God that I was always introduced to in my life is someone who is all about love and positivity and unity. And those acts, those human acts of cannibalism, child rape, and molesting and grooming and trafficking, those are far beyond God's even existence. And so, and if that were to be the case, then why doesn't religion or people who believe in God forgive Satan? If all of these people that are literally having these satanic behaviors and they forgive them so immensely, then why don't they forgive Satan? And I know that might have been such a sensitive, I guess, statement to say, but it's the fact. Like, these people are operating under Satan, but we forgive you. Then why don't you forgive Satan? Why don't you cleanse Satan and the energy of Satan? You cleanse the energy of Satan, you forgive all evil, then you forget all evil, then all there will be is God and all good. But that's too deep of an ideology for people to even conceptualize. And then because of all of this, people will call me antichrist, or I don't believe in Jesus, or an atheist, or all of these things. Like, is a very, very hypocritical and very just psychological, like, disrupting field to even get into. But these people are fucking insane. They genuinely are. You know, with the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files, it makes me so sick to my stomach. Like, I can't believe, let's say, for example, like, there are people who have so many different connects who don't even know the law, who don't know the constitutions, who don't know how many freaking branches there are in the military and in our government, which are three: executive, judicial, and legislative. There's so many amendments, there's so many laws, and even, for example, like, even having relations with Jeffrey Epstein's, you're guilty of the trafficking, ring. You are part of it, and that is literally the law. Like, if you associate with it, you are part of it. But and let's say these people probably never even went to the extent that I'm going through right now, as to academically getting myself involved, waiting to get a degree, building these programs to unite people with FOCA, Foundations of Cosmic Awareness, like bringing people together by, having these conversations and being able to kind of get together and ask ourselves, where are we going with humanity, and where do we want to be, and how do we get ourselves to that point, right? Half of these people that are in the White House haven't even done shit like that, and if they have, is very, like, beneficiary for their own goods, especially in the Republican side, or even conservative Democrats. But it sucks. It sucks to just sit here and consume and consume and consume. And these people are destroying our consciousness, and they're making us feel hopeless. Just, if it were me, if I had the entire ability to do so right now, and I had a voice in the government, I would hold everybody accountable. I would cleanse the entire system and bring genuine everyday people into the White House to make humanity united again. And I would cut all ties with Israel. All ties. If you love Israel so much, America is not a Christian nation. Let me just start with that. It's not a Catholic nation. America is a nation of liberation, of freedom. All religions coexist with each other within this nation. Or the United States of America, let me clarify, because America is the continent. The United States of America, it is a nation of all religions, all people, all classes. It is not solely a Christian nation. The only reason why the United States of America is looking like a Christian nation is because the Republicans are exercising their First Amendment right of freedom of expression within the religious beliefs. That's the only reason. But in the reality of it, in our everyday lives, the United States of America is not a Christian nation. I need you to understand that. Because if not, they would have had the ability to force Sunday school on public schools, force Bible studies on public schools, force a freaking Jesus picture in every classroom in public schools. But because we have a First Amendment that protects us from that type of autocracy, like North Korea, authoritarianism, they're not able to do it. And that's why they do these, clip farms politically. They can't do it. It's impossible. But, long story short, um, I would definitely cut all ties with Israel. If you love Israel so much, go govern in Israel, bro. Literally, go move to Israel. If you love Israel so fucking much, I just don't get it. Like, United States of America is a nation for all people, all religion. Is a nation of humanity, not a nation of Israel. It's not a nation of Christianity. It's not a nation of Catholicism. It's a nation of humanity. That's what it is. And that's how it shall be respected every single day moving forward from today. But there is just such horrible people that are abusing our constitutional rights. And it's just like, if this is how you live at home, do so. No one is stopping you from living like this at home. Go as far as you fucking can. Until you fucking get arrested for being a fucking child molester or a child rapist or all of these freaking horrible, dehumanizing things that you do. Like, no one here is literally stopping you from exercising your beliefs. But don't force it on other people. Don't force it on an entire nation. They're so quick to tell people that we need to be Americanized once we go to the United States of America. But bitch, you're not even trying to Americanize us. You're trying to Israel us. You're trying to make us all, constituents of Israel. And that's when it becomes a problem. Because that's not even our fucking country. That bitch is across the fucking sea. So what are you doing? The United States of America is one of the strongest country in the entire world when it comes to military and economics and even socialism and democracy. But then you literally are choking on Israel's fucking dick, and you're literally making this nation a laughing stock for everybody in the world. And it's like, for what purpose? Because even if the world is ending, we're all dying in this bitch together. You're not gonna be the exception. So it's such a fucked up time that we're living in right now, psychologically. Really, really, that's what it is. Because these people kind of understood how to play the political propaganda game and the conscious game. They understand consciousness. So they know how to shift our energies and shift our waves. But what they don't know is what the afterlife looks like. And who is on the other side. And who is protecting the people that should not be suffering through this atrocious demonic act that these people are operating in the White House. Or in position of powers in both the Lord have mercy Israel and the United States of America. That's what they don't know. And if they do, then I don't know. Then they really don't give a fuck. Because, you have Satan, you have God, right? You have our ancestors, and you have all of spiritual beings, even interdimensional beings, which I do want to mention something about that before I end this episode. But I like to have a clear understanding that there is more good than there is evil. Personally, the only reason why I feel so draining and it feels so hopeless is because evil is outperforming good right now. But it doesn't mean that there is more good than evil. Because what these people are doing is that because these Republicans performed a January 6th in the White House, they want people who are good to act just like them. But they see that we're not, that we're actually peaceful, that we actually come together, that we actually aren't as rebellious as they point us out to be. So they literally drop all these conscious attacks, psychological twisted games when it comes to political propaganda and news and media, and they just push all these like anti, unity laws that pretty much what they do is that they try to get us really mad and upset. But the thing is that what they tend to forget is that their lies, they believe their lies so bad because they're the ones, they're the, as to Republicans pointing fingers at liberal and democratic people, they're always like, they're the ones, they're the ones, they're the ones, they're the ones. Whole time, Republicans are the ones. Conservative people are the ones. But they point fingers at other people that are peaceful in unity. And so it's a very like destroying thing to even experience, because at the end of the day, we know the truth. Everybody knows the truth when it comes to humanity and what it really means to us spiritually and physically here on this planet. So, I don't know. These people can continue, throwing rocks at each other and throwing rocks at us, but we have a beautiful protective shield that, even though we do see the struggle of how we are being affected by their acts, I know spiritually we're always being protected and that we're always on top of them. It's just that right now in the physical world, their atrocious behaviors and conscience is really just outperforming us because they have the spotlight at the moment. And one thing I want to do, I do want to mention about the third episode. Kind of back, we're talking about all this spiritual and, conscious behaviors and stuff like that. I did want to mention a mistake that I had with the third episode as to the Anunnakis being in the Book of Enoch. So, believe it or not, the Book of Enoch is a Jewish apocalyptic text that was pretty much founded in Ethiopia. And then the Bible came later on with religious complications. But the Anunnaki was actually a mythological Mesopotamian gods. And in the Book of Enoch, they kind of refer the Anunnakis as the Watchers, right? So these are kind of like divine beings that were involved with the creation of humanity alongside of the Creator, in that sense of, the Book of Enoch is an ancient Jewish religious text written between 300 BCE and 100 BCE. And the Anunnakis, they appear in cuneiform tablets like the Epic of, I think is Gilgamesh, and other Sumerian myths. They were considered gods and divine beings. So I kind of got them mixed up because, for some reason, I think, what's her name? Ana Paula Luna. She was talking about the Anunnakis being referenced in the Book of Enoch, or I might have misinterpreted it, but I'm pretty sure that's like along the lines as to what she was mentioning. But I think that, I know that the Anunnakis were kind of in reference in the Book of Enoch, considered as the Watchers. So I kind of want to mention that. And the Anunnakis have to do a lot with also, and the Watchers, they have to do a lot with this, human division and keeping us divided to maintain our dimensions in place. Because let's say, there's this book called Alchemy of the Nine Dimensions by Barbara Hancock. I'm pretty sure she mentioned something along the lines that if we do unite, we become stardust, because that's us transitioning to the fifth dimension, and we give our conscious kind of like purpose of unity. And once that elevates to the fifth dimension, everything that is in the third dimension kind of like puffs away into stardust. And I was having a conversation with my mom about this. She's a hardcore Christian, and she said that Jesus kind of talks about the fact that we turn into dust when it comes to unity. And so I don't know how, accurate that is. It did come from my mom. She's a very religious person, in the sense of Christianity. So I understand where she's coming from. But in the sense of dimensional existence, they say that if we unite, then we become the fifth dimension, which is love, peace, and unity. And we kind of like explode into these stardust. And it gives our third dimensional, you know, existence no purpose. So that's why they keep us in this division, so we don't unite and lose our third dimensional existence, which is really interesting because there's so many fields right now diving into quantum physics and consciousness, and I have been doing a lot of studies as to these relations in science, and UAPs are even included in all of this too. And I'm having a clear understanding and sort of a conclusion that everything around us, including, dimensional beings, God, Satan, religion, politics, governance, humanity, society, the stars, the universe, everything is related to consciousness. Consciousness to me is right now is like an orb that branches out into so many different sectors. So consciousness is a collective that is experienced in different point of views and in different point of being and existence. So if there's any scientists listening to this podcast right now, take this as you may and try to conclude something out of it, because that's really my clearest understanding. And I think the way that I can back this support and this statement is because I was flying from Spain to Portugal, and I was looking down at the earth, and I was like, okay, let me put myself in a UAP point of view, like a UAP pilot point of view, and let me see what they're looking at from up here, from the sky. And I'm looking down at, like this little towns and little cities and cars driving. And I'm like, oh my God, we are so tiny. We are so tiny, so tiny. We're like a little speck. And what makes this experience, this human experience, so big is our consciousness. And all of that in relations to, existence and everything that's going on, it just goes to show that our consciousness is our biggest tool in how we move around this lifetime. And that's why it's so important to protect it and to always cleanse it whenever we're being attacked, because consciousness is the tool of how we experience life and how life continues within the spectrum of humanity coexisting with this planet and the universe. So there's that. I hope this was a very fun, interesting podcast episode to listen to. I love you guys so much. I'll probably try to get back on this weekly, but we'll see when we get on this next. I'm not giving up on this podcast. I love it so much, and I feel very, very good now. I feel very like this. I feel good. I'm so happy I got to let all of this out, because it's literally like all of these thoughts has just been eating my brain, and I genuinely know that a lot of people around me understand what I'm talking about, but there's not much that we can do as to, making a difference today, right? So I really hope that this podcast episode, is part of making that difference and awakening people's, perspectives in life and kind of like appreciation of life and, becoming one, being a collective. I also talking about collective, with the Art of Doing Nothing, which is my like retail brand. I'm releasing this line called Collective Consciousness. And I'm really excited about that because there's a really cute art piece that I drew, and I just stamped it in the back of the shirt, and it's actually really, really fire. I'm obsessed with it, like genuinely obsessed with it, and I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on that. As to our workshops, you can go to the art of doing nothing store and go to group event and sign up if you're interested in. We haven't started anything in regards to our workshops because we haven't found anyone who has generally been interested in doing so, or we haven't had anyone pretty much like sign up for it. So we kind of put a hold onto it until we gain a little bit of momentum and just people signing up for it. But it's existence, like it's there. So if you ever want to take a moment to journal with someone or feel less alone in this chaotic world, you can go to the art of doing nothing store and go to group event and join our quiet hours. And it's only $10, I believe, for the entire experience. So you're more than welcome to join us. I love you guys so much, and I hope you guys have a beautiful, beautiful day today. If you're going to sleep, I hope you have a great night and you have beautiful dreams. As the dreams, remember that dreams are part of our everyday lives. So sometimes you have to learn some stuff through our dreams to apply them to our everyday lives. So don't just look at them as just like, oh, it's just a dream. No, it's actually an extension of your everyday life. It's one of our most meditative state to be in, as our body takes a moment of rest and produces the same consciousness that we produce in our everyday lives, but in our dreams. If you're just starting off your day, like I mentioned, have a beautiful day. And yeah, I hope you guys stay safe, stay united, protect each other in your communities. Don't let evil win. Let love and human unity in all shapes and form. You can't say, I follow the Bible, when the Bible says, love thy neighbor, and you're selective as to what neighbor to love. And we're all on this planet together, regardless of how we are, who we love, who we want to be, who we tend to be. Like, you can't just, you're not God to judge people, to tell other people to live. Anybody that is being, that's their relationship with the universe, with the planet, with their human bodies, with their human existence, and with God, if you're a religious person. And if you're a religious person listening to this, just remember, God makes no mistakes when it comes to who he creates. As to, humanity. Satan, on the other hand, he's running Israel. He's running Israel and these Jewish elites that do child sacrifices and just like deal with dead bodies and all of these rituals that they do, in coexistence with Israel. It's not a myth anymore. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's all out, publicly accessible in the internet. Just stay safe from people like that. They're weird, they're wild. And then for them to tell people how to live and what to do with life, it's just crazy. And I don't care. I really don't care. They can crucify me if they want to. Like, I'm exercising my freedom of speech, my First Amendment, as I record this podcast. And that's the beauty of the United States of America. Whether you like it or not, Israel, Israelis, Zionists, weirdos, the fuck, leave us, the U.S., alone. You have your own little country, right? You love your freedom, right? You love Israel, right? I don't know if you ever seen that girl on TikTok. She's so funny on Reels. She was like, "You condone Israel, you love Israel." Yo, they're so weird. They're so weird. All right, love you guys. Be safe. Bye bye.